Welcome once again to another episode of the Think Clinical Podcast. My name is Hamza. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for joining us once again. This is going to be another exciting episode, and this I can relate with personally because it speaks about how you move as a healthcare entrepreneur from an operator to an owner, right? So you need to be looking at and when you look at that journey of moving away, especially as a clinical practitioner or a doctor, to becoming a business owner, it's a journey that you need to understand and you need to be able to relate with. And these are some of the things that you need to pay attention to, especially with the mindset shift. So this is going to be another exciting episode. And if you haven't done so already, please remember to subscribe, like, and share. This is going to open you up to understanding how healthcare has evolved over the period for you as a clinician, and just adopting the right mindset, like moving away from that mindset in the 20th century, for instance, to what we have today. So for most of the 20th century, being a doctor or a dentist just means one thing: you were an operator, right? So you showed up every day, you saw your patients, you went home. Maybe you owned a small practice, maybe you worked for someone else, but your job was to deliver care, not to build a business. That was the conversation. Now, the reality of that is that is changing so much, and today a new generation of clinicians are realizing that if you want control over your career, your income, or your impact, you need to think like an owner, not an operator. So today we are going to be looking at not just owning a solo practice, but with maybe a small solo practice for that matter, and maybe with a part-time receptionist. We are talking about building a scalable business, a business that you can look at not just in one location, but in multiple locations, and make sure you have all the tech features and the tech build-ups in that system for you. Now, the mindset shift is the first stage. This is the hardest part of it, where you have that mental shift. Medical and dental school does not train you to be a business person, it trains you to be a clinician. So they are not training you to be a CEO. They don't teach you about cash flow. They don't teach you about capital structures. They don't teach you about go-to-market strategies. They teach you anatomy. They teach you pharmacology and how to take care of patients. That is by virtue of your training. And that's important. But in this era right now, that is not important. That is not enough anymore, because the economics of healthcare has changed. Insurance reimbursements is flat, and it's even declining in some cases. Costs are rising, so labor cost is rising, supply cost is rising. All these things are going up, and if you don't own your business model, someone else will, and they will pay you a salary to execute your vision, which is not yours, right? So these are some of the things that you need to be looking at. Now, the new healthcare entrepreneur understands this. They understand that clinical autonomy and financial freedom are not the same thing, and you can be the best clinician in the world, but if you don't own an equity in your business, you don't own your future. So what does ownership look like? It could be starting from your own practice as the main owner, and you are not sticking to the old school model where you are coming in with a part-time receptionist and 2 exam rooms. You are actually looking at this like building a practice that can grow into 3 locations, 5 locations, and then 10 locations, with systems, processes, and a team that doesn't depend on you being in the chair every single day. Or it could be part of joining larger organizations like what we call the dental support organizations, or the medical service organizations, where you are not just an employee but an equity owner in a bigger stake of everything that is happening. So what are the new ownership models? So these ownership models actually look like, we break it down in 3. One, we have the scalable solo practice. This is where a lot of clinician entrepreneurs start. You open your own practice, but from day one you are thinking about systems, you are thinking about building into multiple locations, you are thinking about building a bigger business. You are documenting every process, you are hiring strong operators, you are investing in technology, you are planning to move to a second location, right? This is the first one. The path 2 is either you become a medical service organization, or you join a medical service organization or a dental support organization, which is a DSO and MSO. So the dental service organization or the medical service organizations these are private equity backed platforms that are rolling up independent practices. So you sell your practice to the DSO, but you stay as a clinical partner with equity stake in the large organization. You keep practicing, but you are also part of the bigger platform with better negotiating power, centralized back office support, and access to growth capital, right? And when the DSO eventually sells, either another investor or goes public, you participate in the upside. Now, the model has exploded over the last decade. So according to playbook, private equity-backed healthcare clinics grew 36% from 2020 to 2023, and a 2024 AMA survey found that 68% of physicians under 45 are interested in some form of business ownership or partnership in these organizations. So that's the second one. So first one is solo, second one is joining an MSO or a DSO, and the third one is the virtual first network. This is the newest model and in some ways most disruptive. So instead of building physical locations, you build a digital platform. You bring together a network of clinicians who deliver care virtually using shared technology, shared branding, and shared infrastructure. So you own the platform, you own the patient relationships, you scale without the overhead of real estate. So companies like Carbon Health and Tend are doing that right now. They are building nationwide care networks that operate more like SaaS companies and traditional medical platforms. So that's the third stage of it. Now, what does the playbook look like? You're a clinician and you're thinking, okay, I want to build something. Where do I start? Step 1, you get your business. You have to become business literate. You mostly don't need an MBA, but it's good if you want to go in and get an MBA, but you need to understand the basics. You need to understand what cash flow is. You need to understand what margins is. You need to understand what cap tables are. You need to understand what valuation multiples look like. These are books, courses, or mentors who can help you, and they are available everywhere, so you can actually look into this. Step 2 will then be to build systems, not just skills. So you build a business that If you build a business that depends on you, and we have all made that mistake, showing up every day, then once you're no longer around, that business crumbles. You need to document your processes, you need to hire great people, you need to build a team. That's step 2. Step 3 is now to think in terms of value, not revenue. Investors don't value revenue, they value profit, they value growth, and they value scalability. So you need to start thinking about it. And the last step is to get comfortable with capital. Whether it's a bank loan, an investor, or private equity, you are going to need capital to scale. Learn how to pitch, learn how to structure deals, and learn how to protect your equity in any of this. These are the stages you need to be able to get through this. And here's the bottom line. The next generation of clinicians can't just be great at medicine. They have to think systems. They have to understand business, and they have to be willing to take ownership. This is where we are right now. Because the future of healthcare belongs to builders, not just operators, this is where you need to be thinking as a clinician right now, and this is where you need to be headed as far as this is concerned. Thanks for listening to me. The next episode will focus on a similar thing, but very important. So please stay with us, subscribe, like, and share, and we'll see you in the next episode.